Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to start lab number 08, that is all about constraints. So the objective of lab number 8 is to learn an application of constraints on table and its columns. So starting with the introduction of constraints. Basically SQL constraints are rules used to limit the type of data that can go into a table, or we can say in simple words, constraints are some rules used to limit the type of data that we are going to store in a table. So to maintain the accuracy and integrity of data inside table, these rules are applied, or we can say these constraints are applied on a table. So the constraints are divided into two major categories, or we can say there are two main types of constraints or categories. One is known as column level constraints and other category is known as table level constraints. I will also explain the difference between these two categories. So column level constraints are those constraints that can be applied on a single column separately, whereas table level constraints are those constraints that can be applied on single column as well as group of columns in a table. So we can say column levels are constraints are those constraints which can be applied on a single column individually, while table level constraints are known as uh, those constraints which can be applied on a single column individually as well as combination of columns. So constraints are used to make sure that the integrity of data is maintained in the database. Following are the most used constraints that can be applied to a database. Basically, these rules which we are going to apply on creation of tables ensure the integrity of data in a database. We can say valid data is going to be stored in a database. So there are basic five types of constraints, which are normal constraint, unique constraint, primary constraint, foreign constraint, and check constraint. While default and other constraint is auto increment. These are known as properties of an attribute. I am writing separately in a notepad. So one property is known as default and another property that we will discuss in this lab is auto increment. Okay. So basic constraints are five constraints: normal, unique, primary key, and foreign key, and another is check, while default and auto increment are known as properties of an attribute. So starting with null constraint, uh, starting with non-null constraint. Non-null constraint restricts a column from having null value. So if non-null constraint is applied on a column, then you cannot add or insert a null value or in that column. Once non-null constraint is applied to a column, you cannot pass a null value to that column. It enforces a column to contain a proper value. It means if a non-null is constraint is applied, and then you have to insert or add a proper value or some kind of value in that column. One important point to note about this constraint is that it cannot be defined at table level. So as we have discussed the two categories of constraints, column level constraints and table level constraints. So some constraints are known as pure column level constraints, while other constraints are known as column level constraints as well as table level constraints. So non-null constraint is a pure column level constraint. This constraint cannot be applied on a table level. So I hope this concept is clear now. So example using non-null constraint is create table student, and there are three attributes, and we are performing this example by using workbench. So a starting workbench, here is workbench. So before going to create a table, we are going to create a database as the table name was student. So we are creating database name as university. So create database university. Here create is a detailed command which we have discussed in last lab, that was lab number 7. In database is a keyword, whereas university is the name of user defined database. So just select the query and click on execute button. Query has been performed successfully. Now going to create a table in this database, you have to enter in this database. So to enter in this database, use command is used. Use, then the name of database, university. So now we are in university database. Now you can create tables in this database. So I'm just copying from here. Copying this example and pasting in workbench. So create table student is a statement used in previous lab. Then we are going to create a relation, you can say table, and in this table there are three attributes: s underscore id, s name, sh. The data type of sid is int, data type of s name is varchar and its size is 60, and the data type of sh is int. And here after the data type int, not null keywords are defined. So these non-null keywords identifies that the non-null constraint is going to be applied on SID attribute. So just select the query and execute it. The query has been executed successfully. Now to make sure that this constraint is applied, we are going to take by using describe command. So describe, and the name of table is student. So here in this information, 6 columns are displayed: field, type, null, key, default and extra. So you are seeing that SID column contains no under null column. It means that SID attribute now cannot contain null values. Clear? Okay. So the above query will declare that the SID field of student table will not take null value. So we have created or we have applied non-null constraint on an attribute during the creation. But can we apply non-null constraint if the table is already created? The answer is yes. So I am going to describe here if the table is already created, then how we can apply non-null constraint on any attribute. So for that purpose, alter command is used. So alter table is a keyword and the name of table is student. Now modify keyword will be used to apply non-null constraint on any attribute. So modify, and I am going to apply non-null constraint on s name. So s name varchar, I'm not changing its data type or size. I'm just applying non-null constraint on s name. Size is again same, but even though you can change the data type as well as size of uh, this attribute, not none. So just select the query and execute. Query has been successfully executed. You can check it by using describe command. So describe students, sorry, describe student, not students. So now s name attribute also contain no. It means the normal constraint is applied on s name attribute as well. You cannot insert null values in s name attribute. I hope both the methods are clear now, that how you can apply non-null constraint during the creation of table and how non-null constraint is applied after the creation of table. Okay, so now we are moving to constraint number 2. Let me write these types in MS Word. So we are performing lab number 8, and in lab number 8 we are discussing about constraints. And the type of constraints we are going to discuss in this lab are: first one is not null, which has been described, and second constraint is unique. Now we are going to describe and perform unique constraint